Then the next piece is the RFP process. So what you want to do is set up a time to have your first meeting with each PEO that you're considering, whether it be, like, hey, I want to meet with TriNet. Well, they have a certain sales process. I want to meet with JustWorks. They've got a certain sales process. Hey, I also want to look at some options with a broker, right? And see what carriers should we work with? Should we do level funded plans? Should we do self funded? Should we be on the small market? Should we prepare for large market? What do we do, right? That's what this section is for. Gather all the right info. Then what we want to do is we want to submit the information to each PEO. And everybody has a different submission process. Some people will have portals. Others will tell you to just shoot them an email. Depending on the size of the PEO, it might still be like a handshake and, you printing out a bunch of papers and giving it to some guy who puts it in a suitcase. I mean, there's a lot of different methods to doing it. You just want to have all these documents prepared. And again, you're sharing your employee sensitive data. So you want to make sure you're working with a reputable company and a reputable service provider. You have to have that trust. So in that first meeting, you really want to make sure of a couple of things. Is the PEO a PEO you would want to partner with? The reviews online, here's the truth. Nobody likes their PEO so much that they say, I love this PEO. They're doing a great job. Let me go online and write a great review. Usually if you mess up on payroll or benefits, the first thing you want to do is go online and write a bad review. So these like G2 reviews, what people are saying online, take it with a grain of salt and work with the professional and they'll help guide you, because really it's all about how do you guys want to work? What's the conversation that we had in this first discovery and internal alignment call over services that we need? How did the employees need to communicate? A lot of details there, right? But when you submit this information, look, it's never perfect. So there's a couple of phases. There's the initial RFP gather, which we'll go through here. And then each PEO is going to have a little bit of a different nuance where they say, you know what, we need a little bit more information on, we need a utilization record. How do you guys actually utilize your plans? Or we need your renewal. Why is that? Well, it's because the carriers that they're working with are underwriting the deal separately from the PEO, or internally, the risk team is actually trying to assess, how do we price these people? How do we price them? Because the pricing is super important. They want to look at how much do they estimate you're going to have in claims versus how much you're going to have in premium. And the way that the PEO is able to make their money and offer benefits at scale is they have to manage the claims to loss ratio, or the premium to loss ratio, right? So they want to look at your group. They want to see what age you are. They want to understand your demographics. They want to know what part of the country you're in so they can map out the different networks. We'll go over that stuff in a moment, but don't be frustrated if you spent all this time gathering the RFP info, you submit it to the PEOs, and they come back asking for a little more information, right? Sometimes it's the rep, sometimes it's the carrier, sometimes somebody forgot to ask for something. That's why it's best for you to be organized and have all this information ready to go. So you'll also get an email generally from like our reps, who, by the way, like, if you guys do want to work with the cream of the crop, like the best vetted reps in the industry, each PEO generally assigns your broker, if they work with the PEO, some of the best people in the company, right? So like our team, they usually get this right. But again, like, they never know what the underwriter team is going to ask for, or the risk team, if they call it that. But you will get an email that lets you know you've completed all the information. If you're submitting it in a portal, it'll end up giving you like a green check and letting you know, hey, you're all good to go. Then at that point, it's a little bit of a waiting game, right? So you're going to see here too, time, days, lapse, right? So it might take you a day, maybe 2 days to submit the information. And then once you get the information completed, there's a 10-day lull, right? There's a 10-day lull. And one thing I will say that we do on our side for our clients is we tell them, we're not doing a technology demo until we are assured we're getting pricing. Why? You can get declined. Sometimes people get declined for underwriting. Hey, it says like, hey, they declined a quote. Your group just, doesn't make sense for us right now, but we can carve out this and carve out that, right? If your goal is to go in there to get better benefits and they're not going to offer you benefits, then why do I care to look at your technology at all? So that's why after the RFP process, you submit it, you wait, and it could be up to 10 days. I am finding the PEOs are getting much better, and I'm seeing some of the larger ones. Like, I know, like, if I'm working with a group and they're in small group, and I send this off to, say, like Rippling, JustWorks, TriNet, G&A partners. If I send it off to my reps, they sometimes get this back to me in 1 to 3 days. I mean, it's pretty sweet on this side. And look, like this part is the most crucial because a lot of people they try to withhold information. This is what ends up making you have high renewals and unpredictable costs, right? Because you're sending in a little bit of like, hey, let me give them my information, but I don't want to give them my renewal. Well, if you had a high fluctuating renewal and you have pretty high claims and you're on like a open market plan where it's level funded and they'll find that information, it's almost better to see the PEOs that price you in a way where they're not putting the rest of the pool at risk. So the more questions they ask you in the RFP process, request for proposal, in that process, the more questions they ask, your smile should just get bigger and bigger, right? Because they're showing you that, hey, they're the ones that want to make sure they're not just letting anybody in the pool. They want to make sure they have great rates year over year. There's some PEOs that have really suffered, and it takes years for them to recover with the carriers because they basically put people that just don't belong on their medical plan in the pool. So this process is probably the most frustrating. And the next piece is depending on who you work with, employee benefit strategy session and see how we can be helpful in any way. All right, take care.